I respect. I know I've been watching they're trying to pick on the postmaster guy about the mail.
What do you think about that?
You know, I used to work at the post office, so I don't understand, you know, well, let me put it this way. I don't know any business where you would bring somebody in to run it who's never even done anything close to that. But I guess that's the nature of politics in this country.
Well, now, didn't he run some sort of a private delivery service that?
Well, you know, I can say this to you, Stu. You know, having worked there, there's no private delivery service that is anywhere near the breadth and scope of the post office, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, they have, you know, I was just hearing the other day some folks talking about they have a constitutional mandate to deliver the mail 6 days a week. I mean, that's a heavy mandate, if you will. And, you know, I don't know what the volume is, but I suspect it's a heck of a lot bigger than you know, say a FedEx or UPS. I don't really know the numbers, though. Do you? Mr. Dougie, I think I lost you. This is the Afteraction Report, the WEBT. Today is Monday, August 24th, and we're kicking around some of the issues of the day, in particular the U.S. Postmaster General, Louis DeJoy, who has been recently appointed by the president to, in my mind, block and shut down the U.S. Postal Service. A couple of agendas there, I believe. One clearly being to suppress the vote for this upcoming November election. And two, to position the post office as a dysfunctional institution and position it for possible privatization takeover. That's just my own thought on that.
Maybe that's what they're doing, Stu.
Yeah, I think that's what they're doing.
Maybe that's what they are doing. But, you know, again, you know, they put a guy in there who well, it's pretty obvious what you know, that maybe they are trying to do something like that, because this guy never ran anything of that nature. They say he has investment with some of UPS's post office contractors and competitors.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I'm sure if they were to figure out how to carve up or carve out the post office, you know, that would be, you know, they would need more than one person to privatize. Mm-hmm. You would need to, you know, they would probably have to cut it up like they did the phone company. But I don't know why they would do that. I don't see the point.
Well, you know, the point is so that somebody at least can make some more money. I mean, that's the why.
Well, I don't know if you're going to make any money, because you got to, you know, you have to charge people. And, you know, when people, as you already know, when people think that they're being shitted on, they'll look for other ways to do things. They don't have any guarantee that people will continue to do business with them or anybody else for that matter. Mm-hmm. You know, maybe they're trying to force Amazon. I'm not
guessing it's a smart or well thought out decision. I just think that's their motivation.
I understand. I didn't, you know, and I didn't think he said that. I didn't think he was suggesting that either. I'm just, you know, saying my stream of consciousness is that, you know, usually is about the behavior of people. You know, generally when people think something's being overpriced or not being fairly handled, they'll look for other ways to do things. And unless they're trying to, you know, get at Amazon, because Amazon, to try to get money out of Amazon, as a private guy, you know, we'll use Amazon. I don't know if that'll work, because Bezos already showed that he would try to have his own fleet. Mm-hmm. And if I was him, I would be looking, if that was the case, then why wouldn't he be looking to invest or merge with somebody like, I don't know, a FedEx or one of them other guys.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? What would happen if he did that?
Like, that would be a happy marriage. If I was him, that'd be great.
Well, they would. So my point is that there's always a suitor.
Mm-hmm.
There's always a suitor for the
you put something on the altar, somebody's going to show up.
There's always going to be a suitor if there's something attractive. There's
That's
something
right.
attractive on the altar. Yes.
That's right.
somebody will show up if they think it's attractive enough. So I don't know how they would get it, but this to me seems like a continuation of the white guys looking to control everything that they can. When you turn on the TV to watch all this stuff, you see a bunch of old white guys sitting up there.
Well, I see Mr. Bob has just joined us. Welcome, Bob.
I am.
We were just talking about the post office, and I had postulated. I'm not the first one to say this, but I've heard other folks talk about, in addition to looking to suppress the vote as a reason why this guy was put in by Trump. I've heard others saying, I kind of think it may be true, that they're also looking to kind of destabilize the institution itself of the post office and set it up for possible privatization.
Oh, that's absolutely true. So the background on this is that Munchie Man, whatever this guy's name, who's the Treasury Secretary, was actually behind all this, and he actually initiated the search to find this guy DeJoy, who evidently is a multi-millionaire. He's probably like a half a billionaire. So just the fact that a guy like this would take a position as Postmaster General, he's not taking it for the salary. He's taking it for whatever benefits he can get out of it. And it's just obviously just criminal what was done to just literally came in to destabilize the post office. I don't understand.
So do you think that there could be one of the agendas of destabilizing it would be to set it up for a privatization or some kind of buyout or takeover?
Absolutely. Everything that this administration has done has been about basically a new form of carpetbagging. Whereas, you look at every aspect that they brought people in, and from energy secretary, education, it's always been about destabilization. And so this is just one more in a long line of this. But this one strikes even closer to home because literally everybody is affected by the post office. Even if we don't use it as much as we did, we still use it. It still delivers, millions and millions of packages every year. It delivers people's medicine. It delivers people's checks. And obviously, it's supposedly be one of those institutions that, we've come to rely on. And so, for us to see scenes of them literally throwing out the mail sorting machines and carting away boxes, weeks in front of a presidential election, everybody involved should go to jail on this. Every damn one of
them. I agree with that. I mean, it's a travesty. What do you think, Mr. Wisdom?
You speaking to me, Stu?
Yeah. Bob just said he thought everybody involved in this whole post office affair should go to jail. I just wonder what you thought about that.
Well, yeah, Dr. Black.
Yeah, Dr. Blackie.
That's a good. That's a good point of reference. And I was saying to Stu earlier, Bob, that I worked in the post office myself. Mm-hmm. And I down at the General Post Office down across the street from Madison Madison Square Garden. And that place is ginormous, beyond belief. And a lot of the mail sorting machines that are there. And I was a clerk, so you had to sort the mail. One of those mail sorter guys or boys, whatever you want to call it. And the thing that struck me was that when you were talking about
All right, that's my fault. I'm sorry. My fault. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, what struck me was that they Mnuchin gave them a $10 billion line of credit from the Treasury Department, and what he wanted and what they gave him in return was all of their information about their contracts with Amazon. And I thought that was kind of a tell, and I didn't hear anybody yet mention that. Did you guys hear that?
Nope.
No, I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, he gave them they got just got a $10 billion line of credit from Mnuchin. Because if you think about it, Mnuchin has inserted himself into the process, and I think he's been trying to, and he has gotten the information about what Amazon is paying, because apparently Amazon is using the Postal Service. They're paying, the Postal Service is making a nice dollar off of that, because I live right next to the damn post office, and so I've noticed the extreme decrease in activity at the post office. And so I have some more of a, I don't know what they call that, but I have more of an on the ground perspective of what they do in the post office, because I can look out my window and see, I've seen like in April and May, all of the postal trucks parked all around here on the avenue, in the block. Every night there was tons of post office trucks, and they were coming in here and loading their trucks up and all that stuff. And now you see none of them. So something's going on. And they showed a chart. I saw some chart on one of the news things, and the over July you could see that there was a big dive in activity amongst the post office. And having worked there, when you have these slugs, they call them slugs, those are packages. When you have the package, I can't believe I remember the slang there. But when you have all these packages, that's run by a different set, a different group in the post office than the people who you go to and buy a stamp from. People you go and buy, those are all clerks. The people who deliver the mail are clerk carriers, but the people who handle all of the packages are they're in a whole nother category. And a lot of that is run out of, when I was in this, run out of 29th Street at the mortgage station. And they would get all the packages together and send, and they farm the packages out to the various distribution points. The little blue boxes that you see, they're used to distribute the mail to the carriers. So when they take those boxes out, take those boxes away, then the carriers don't have the people who you see coming to your building, they don't have their distribution point to pick up the mail that they need to go into the next part of their area. So I would have to say, having worked there, that they are trying to slow the mail process down, because if you don't have the distribution points, that means the carrier got to walk all the way back to the station to reload all their mail, and then walk all the way back over there. And if they cut down the overtime, it's not going to get done.
Oh, it's the perfect storm.
Because I've seen people out there delivering mail at 8 or 9 o'clock at night. I've seen people delivering mail, the mail carriers delivering mail at 8 or 9 o'clock at night. And coming back to the post office at 9:30. I've been standing out in front of my building. I've seen people the carriers coming back during that time. You don't see them doing that anymore.
I mean, you could literally see some guys sitting around a room, maybe with a virtual conference room, saying, so how can we mess up this postal service? And it's like, well, we could take out the sorters. Yeah, write that down. Let's take away some of the boxes. Yeah, write that down. And let's cut overtime to nothing. Write that down. Which one should we do? Let's do all.
And remember,
Let's do the whole
Bob,
thing.
you remember he left out one part. Who employs the most non-white people out of any agency in the whole country?
Of course.
I mean, you know, so it has a whole kind of.
It reminds me of that. What was that movie that Robert Townsend did way back when? Hollywood Shuffle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And remember the twist in the Hollywood Shuffle was you can always get a job at the post office.
All right. I thought you was gonna mention the whole case because Ho's got the answer.
Yeah. Okay, you got a one-track mind here. What does that have to do with the post?
I just
office?
remembered that. And
Postal
I remember the
workers
scene.
got to eat too.
I remember the scene where the guy was trying out for the actual movie. They were showing the audition scene in the actual movie, and the black guy came in and they said, "Oh, you're not black enough." And the guy said, "I don't be got no gun." They wanted him to be black, more Ebonic. He said, "I don't be got no gun." They said, and the white,
over the weekend, since we're going down the memory lane of some old movies, I was watching 30th anniversary of House Party by the Hudlin brothers.
Oh, right.
And there's a scene in there where kid gets in trouble with the principal because he got into a fight with one of the full force guys because one of the full force guys called his mom, who had passed, a hoe. And when he's in the principal's office, the principal turns to the full force guy and said, "Why did you call his mother a garden tool?" So I have to say the same thing to Rush Limbaugh. Why did you call our new vice presidential candidate a garden tool?
Well, I mean, she wasn't my explicit first choice. I would have preferred if in my fantasy world Michelle Obama. However, once they picked her, I think that she should be supported, and it's pretty clear how they're coming out and saying the kind of the lugubrious things about her. I think says a lot about who these guys are.
Speaking of which, I'm wondering what you guys think about both the content and the production values of the Democratic National Convention last week. I myself, I thought it was a stunning production operation, and I thought it was relatively seamless and almost flawless the way they pulled it off. From so many multiple locations, so many different feeds going into the actual broadcast. I thought it was an incredible production job. In addition to, and let me also say that I thought that so much of the ballyhoo and just the BS that's typically associated with these conventions, wasn't there because you didn't have the big hall, you didn't have the crowds, you didn't have the balloons. And it made folks, at least from my estimation, it made folks focus more directly on issues and substance as each one spoke. I'm wondering what you guys thought.
So you mean they eliminate the pomp and circumstance and got right straight to the facts?
Yes. Yeah. And I thought that was a result of, well, it didn't have to be, but because everything was virtual, because they weren't in a big hall with all the congregation and all the party atmosphere, yes, I would say that it was much more substantive, I thought.
When you would be more interested in seeing what sort of pomp and circumstance we're going to get tonight?
Yeah. No, I'm not really interested, to answer your question, to be honest. My wife can hardly wait. Me, I
can hardly wait.
Bob,
I thought it was good. Sans my opinion. Sorry, Bob. Go ahead.
Oh, well, I just have to say I can only offer a secondhand opinion because I watched not 1 minute of the Democratic convention, virtual convention, and it's obviously not because I don't support them. It's just that having already made my decision up, I just didn't feel like it was the best use of my time. But from what I have heard and discerned from other people, you know, obviously the production values were good. I think it benefited from not being live because we didn't have to see all the filler content around it. It's always been a bloated, bloated event. So to just be able to go from person to person to person and let them do what they do, that's fine. I think the one thing that marred it was the muzzling of progressive voices. I think that's a mistake. I think it's a strategic mistake that the Democratic Party has continued to make, and not recognizing that while they may not agree with the progressive voices in the party, those have been the ones that have been driving engagement and activity, including Bernie Sanders. Right now, also really talking more about AOC, and to give her just 1 minute's worth of time when you're giving Republicans a chance to come in and talk, to me, I just think that sends the wrong message. You know, okay, you know, thanks for your service. Now we're gonna, you know, bring in a white man from the Midwest, and we're going to value his opinion more than yours. That's not the move. And
That's the
these are
American
the
way, though,
types
Bob.
of stumbles that make me, well, it may be the American way, but it ain't the way for the Democrats to win. You know, they're operating Joe Biden, and I'm riding with Biden. I'm riding with Biden Harris. I support them. I support everyone who wants to vote for them. But the simple fact we have to talk about is that this campaign is running on borrowed political capital. It has had fits and starts, and basically it's been jump started on several occasions by, you know, initially by Jim Clyburn, who, had he not won in South Carolina decisively, his campaign was not really, it didn't have any legs until then, you know, and then all of a sudden he got the momentum, and then he goes and makes stupid statements and then loses it, and then it was really, to me, it was floundering right up until he chose Kamala Harris, who, although I didn't support her in the primaries, I absolutely felt like she was the best choice for vice presidential candidate. And he energized the campaign, and then went into, as Stu said, a well-executed convention. But let's not forget that, you know, if it wasn't for these infusions of you know, interest in what he's doing, that kind of mask out the stupid statements he says along the way, you know, we need everybody to be enthusiastic about this campaign, and trying to play to the people at the margins when you haven't locked down your base is just a poor strategy. You know, you see the other side, they play to their base every day. I mean, like a drummer, you know, here's your favorite tune, white supremacy, white supremacy. You know? So,
Good point, Bob.
you know,
Well, that's a good point.
You know,
Yeah.
we gotta, you know, sometimes we gotta take a look and not just go in our feelings, but let's just talk about the strategy. You know, the strategy of playing to their base to try to get them to come over the fence. That's not working. You need to energize the people who are you are running with, because you risk people losing enthusiasm. There's already a contingent of people who are looking for a reason to sit out, and it's like, blah 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 blah, false equivalency. Oh, the Democrats, the Republicans, they're all the same. They're not, you know. There's degrees and levels to this thing, and you know, right now we're all agreed that the level that we're dealing with is an unacceptable level for everybody. There shouldn't be a single American who's not horrified by what's going on, but the fact is that close to half of them, it's like, it's okay with me. Did you see
Well,
the
it-
poll
I
yesterday that
I
came
agree with
out
you
that
in terms of
50?
focusing on the base, and I was very disappointed that, you know, when ALC spoke, one, she spoke only to nominate Bernie Sanders, who everybody knew was not going to be the nominee, and then she wasn't given any more time, and that was like maybe a minute and a half. But to their credit, they did do a couple of things that I was really impressed with. The person that nominated Biden was a Black woman elevator operator, a sister, who only knew him from running him up and down the elevator. And she spoke very eloquently about how they had connected, just person to person. And she was the one who actually put his name in the nomination. I thought that was stunning. And she was not some pretty fancy looking lady either. She was a very plain Jane sister, but spoke very powerfully as she put his name in the nomination. I thought that was incredible. The other thing that I thought, one of the other things that I thought was really stunning was the young kid that had a stuttering problem, and how Biden had helped him get over it, and how they showed that, and they let the kid read his statements, and he stuttered a few times as he was reading the statement, but they let the whole thing play. I thought that was a very powerful moment. One other moment was when they interviewed a Latino family whose father had been a Marine who had voted for Trump and who got sent back to Mexico by Trump. And very poignant, powerful statements from the family. I mean, it was really heartbreaking to hear that story. So, I mean, I'm just saying that to say there were some moments where I thought they really hit real hard with the base with some really powerful points.
Stu, that to me, all three of those things, Stu, demonstrated to me how far, and I think I'm agreeing with Bob here. Those things that then showed to me that how far we have not become when an elevator operator, a Black elevator operator, put his name in nomination is a big thing, and it shouldn't. When they take and deport someone who has served in the military, which shouldn't happen, and then, you know, to, like Bob said, the degrees of issues. And I agree with you also, Sue, on the thing with the AOC, but I understood why she did that. He backed her green thing. He was the only major person to back her thing. She came out and nominated him, and that's not unusual in convention parlors for people to get up and nominate certain people in the first part of it. So that wasn't an unusual thing that she did in terms of convention antics. I think that the idea that the Democrats are still trying to go after the middle of the road white vote, who I believe somebody got on there and said they haven't won that vote since 1960 something. The fact that they're still going after that group, I think, says a lot about who's in charge of the Democratic Party. It's the white guys.
Absolutely.
And until the people, the regular people, are, you know, stop taking the little things that they do, and you know, I'm not criticizing you, but stop, you know, with still those things that you mentioned, those things shouldn't be big things. Those things should be little things. And until we can get to the point where we can make those things as significant as they were, Stu, until we get to the point where we can make those things little things, then I think the Democratic Party leaves a lot to decide. I think they're just white guys who are running themselves. And think about the thing with, like Bob wrote, the thing about Clyburn. When Clyburn did what he did, somehow or another, and maybe I'm wrong, some deal was made where everybody was going to decide to get behind Joe. At that point, when he did that, when that happened, a deal was cut and everybody dropped out together. That very rarely happens unless there was something was talked about. And so they decided to work as a collective, which kind of makes sense. But I think at some point they got to make these the stuttering guy. I mean, you know, come on, man. I mean, I mean, to have to ostracize that guy because he's stuttering, and everybody has their.
You dropped out there, though. You lost your audio. Well, I don't know. I guess Mr. Dougie will come back. So Bob, what are you looking for? What are you expecting for this week's antics? Are you going to be tuning in at all to the RNC convention?
No, I'm going to follow it on social media. I am not going to tune in. If I didn't tune in for the Democrats, I surely don't need to listen to hours and hours of lies, obfuscation, and false narratives. I mean, if there was a reason for me to like raise my blood pressure and I don't need that. I already know how I feel about them. I could probably write their scripts for them. That's how predictable they are. Mm-hmm. Oh, but here, let's talk about a side note that I think is interesting. So there's a couple of things we want to talk about their convention. Number one, how they didn't invite any of their leading Black people. Candace Owens was not invited. Diamond and Silk was not invited. I think the only Black person they have, major Black person in the Republican Party who they still got, who's got to show up, unfortunately, is Herman Cain, because as you know, they still have him working even though he's dead. Mm-hmm. So you heard about his Twitter account, right? So
no, I did not.
What's going on with that? Still taking shots. So evidently, first his daughter took over, and then they gave it over to something that they're calling Team Cain. So his Twitter account is still basically, attacking the Democrats.
Wow.
So that's kind of a new low in politics.
I haven't seen that before. Wow.
Black man can't even die on their watch. It's like, no, you're not dead. Yeah. Get back out there in that field.
Wow.
So the other story coming out of their convention is that Kellyanne Conway has taken a backseat. And evidently, I think the strains in her family are causing her, she's leaving the White House, she's pulling back. Her husband, George, who's been anti-Trump, is also saying he's pulling back from public life. And their daughter, who has been blazing her mother in social media lately, and most recently basically looking into how she can emancipate herself as a teen. So I think that was the warning signal for Kellyanne Conway to say, all right, maybe I should pull back from this and focus on my family, and because it's clear that her role in the Trump circus has been ripping that family apart slowly and more intensely, and it's got to a point where she had to make a real choice. And so while I'm not a fan of her in many ways, I don't like her politics, I don't like her duplicity, because she was an anti-Trump person at one point in time and then switched when the check cleared. But I do have to give her credit for, taking this moment to put her family in front of this. And Dr. Blackie's back, I think.
So the check cleared, huh, Bob?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I agree with you. I thought she was leaving, or more aptly absconding, because.
Oh, you thought it was the rats leaving the sinking ship type of thing?
I kind of got the idea of as a basketball term, the ship be sinking, and I thought maybe she was. I just thought that.
I think that camp still thinks they can win, and I'm not saying that they're wrong at this point in time.
That's right.
Because
he can win.
we've
He can't
already
do it.
seen all the public tricks that they've tried to use. We don't know what the effects are going to be on the post office thing, but the fact that they're that brazen, you know, they're not putting up a white flag by any means. But this was definitely related to what was happening in the Conway household.
Well, but then, you know, family things always take precedent over that other kind of stuff. So if that's the case.
Well, it was a long time coming, you know. But her daughter was blazing her all summer in social media. I mean,
oh, get out of here! Get out of here!
Oh yeah, you didn't know about that? Yeah.
I vaguely heard. I didn't know it was that big.
Tearing her up on Twitter, you know.
And Doug, while you were out, you may know about this, but I hadn't heard about the fact that someone in the Republican Party, maybe his family, has resurrected Herman Cain's Twitter account, and they continue to put out pro-Trump, I'm going to say propaganda, but supporting statements under the Herman Cain Twitter handle.
Supporting statements of who?
I had not heard of that happening for somebody dead that is continuing to tweet. That's a first.
Welcome to the new world, Stu.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where, you know, you may die, but your persona or your social persona can live on in infinity. Right. Watch out for that, Bob. How about your social persona may live on in infamy. It's pretty deep right there. That's some deep stuff right there. I didn't hear that, and that's interesting how they would, you know, play him like that. A guy who was a devout one of them, and you know, he showed up at that thing, and then bam. I don't know if that thing had anything to do with it, but I was pretty interesting.
You don't know, with him dying?
Huh?
You talking about him being at the Tulsa rally,
Correct.
And then a week to 10 days later being hospitalized?
Yes.
I mean, come on, 1 and 1 is 2. Clearly.
I agree, but you know, we're not dealing. But remember, our many hours spent with the professor before he passed, and one of his biggest kernels was that he proclaimed that the mean educational average of America was the 6th grade. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, 1 and 1, maybe 2 to you 2 Ivy Leaguers, but I don't know if that's the case with everybody else.
No, I was just responding to your hesitation in citing his participation in the convention.
My hesitation only because I was trying to kick my cat at the same time.
Okay.
Had nothing to do with any thinking that maybe one thing didn't have nothing to do with it. I thought it was interesting how they try to act like it didn't. I thought that was more interesting than anything else, how they just try to act. I mean, and everyone, not just the Republicans, but everyone. Well, you know, this is the thing. To me, the fix is in for the white guys. That's just how it is. And until people decide that, you know, that the people who only make up, and I'll use the statistic that I've heard on MSNBC and others, you know, you got a group of people, a particular group of people of the same race and agenda that make up 30% of the American population, and they got 67% of all the legislative seats. Okay, so that's who we're talking about. In New York City, they make up around the same percentage. They get 98% of all the contracts. They're in charge of everything. And until we have a party where that's not the case, and I'm saying the Democrats are just as involved in it as the Republicans. One group is more brazen in what they're looking for, what their cause is. You know, them keeping their power, and the other one is taking it's like the good cop, bad cop. And as Malcolm X said, they always can find some handkerchief head Negroes to go along with whatever the hell they're doing. And until we get people, I don't know if that's the part's ever going to stop, But until we get people to realize that you just can't have one small group running everything, I think we're going to be, headed for trouble. Steep decline. I don't see how you're going to get out of it because of the people who are trying to keep power are increasing their noose on everything that they can. And for a myriad of reasons, I'm pretty sure that, we could not cover all the reasons psychologically and culturally why they're doing that. But until we have a system where, maybe everybody has to have a say and we understand that it's okay to vote for anybody you want, but you got to vote. Until we have a system where they make everybody vote so everybody has something to say about everybody's involved in what's going on, I don't know how you're going to get to a point where any of these kinds of conversations are going to stop. People are going to continue to do what they do. That's just an observation.
Well, I certainly don't disagree. Just a quick point on the numbers. New York City, I think white men are more like under 15% of the population, because black and brown people are something like 60 to 70%.
Well, that makes it even more egregious.
Yeah, of course.
15% of
they are the minority.
Right, they're the minority, and they're calling the majority people the minority. We live in a bizarre world. The minority people, the white guys, are calling everybody else a minority, while they are engorging themselves on all of the economic things, particularly the governmental things. They're engorging on them for themselves, and you have people who are signing up to be a part of it because they think they're going to get ahead. They think that they are going to be the winners. They're thinking like they're in, when I just think back about, being a basketball player, and when you get to the caliber, when you're playing around with these NBA guys and you listen to some of the stuff that some of the wannabe guys are saying, you look around in politics, you see the same kind of notion. I remember I was in camp with the Philadelphia team. It was only going to pick 15 guys, man. It was like 30 dudes there, man. And everybody there, when you were sitting around, talking, waiting, so everybody there was talking do or die. Gotta make the team. Gotta make the team. This is it. This is my big chance. I mean, it was permeated with everything. And I was sitting there going, damn, I'm glad I graduated from college. I was never so happy. I had never been so appreciative of having had graduated until that particular, other than, impressing my parents that I wasn't a doodle head like I thought. But other than that, I was never so happy to be a college graduate than sitting in that gym floor down in Philly and, looking at all those dudes, and I'm going like, everybody's not making it. And you couldn't tell any of those guys that they weren't going to make it. Yeah. And I use the same thing when people think that they're going to get something from the white people running up. They throw out a little breadcrumbs to divide and conquer, and people bite. And for that, I'm sad for that. I'm sad for that. I'm sad for that part, that we live in a culture where people are forced to do that. I'm not even blaming them. I'm just sad that we have a culture where people are forced to think that that's the only way. And to me, that's kind of sad, because not only, as Dr. Blackie would say, not only are the streets are talking, but the kids are watching. So I'm kind of sad about that. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
Well, I mean, it's certainly, that's the way it is, and that's why we are, fighting for change, and that's why we have this platform where we're giving voice and lifting up other opinions that hopefully will help raise consciousness, because I really believe that until people's minds get together, until consciousness is raised among people, that stuff's not going to change. There you go. Just to your point, Doug, about folks going for the okie doke. I mean, that's a consciousness issue. That's not being aware of what the big picture is and what game is being played upon us. So until that happens, we're going to continue on this treadmill. I look at the positive side and try and kind of keep myself going with that, because if I focused on just the negativity, I couldn't function. So I look at the positive side, and I look at some of the glimmers of hope that I see with folks opening up their minds and consciousness being lifted up. And
I agree with you.
I look at all the young people that are out marching in the streets this summer as a result of the George Floyd killing and others. And when I look at that, I see some hope that, folks are starting to wake up and open their minds. So,
it's kind of interesting, Stu. It's kind of interesting, Stu, that after, us given the era that we grew up in, it's kind of interesting that after all this time, you still have to say that.
Yeah, well.
It says a lot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, you just, particularly when you're a 60s baby, and, you see that we have, I know you remember our esteemed attorney told us one day in mocking those groups, he said, he said that they got guys are saying, I got to go. I'm going to be meeting with the governor today. We're going to have a meeting.
You're going to have dinner. Going to have lunch with the governor.
Yeah, we're going to have dinner with the governor. And they go to, and the guy goes to a place where there's 1,000 people there, and the governor comes to give a speech. But he tells everybody in the neighborhood he's going to have dinner with the gov. So, I mean, that's all, see, to me, Stu, that's all cultural. Is what do we do in the culture? What do we accept? And in the culture that we have, we accept that the white men are entitled to have everything. And it reminds me of, I told you the incident when I was standing in McDonald's on 7th Avenue, and there was an African guy behind the counter, and we were all standing in line, and he told this young white guy who was standing behind me to come to the front of the line, and he took the guy's order, and the guy stood on the side. And it was like one person in front of me, so once the other person went, then he called me over there, and I said to him, why the fuck did you put the white guy in front of me? He said, well, he shouldn't have to wait. I said, well, what world are you from, man? I could see then that he wasn't from this country. You know what I mean? When he was talking. And I was so angry, I said, man, give me a coffee. When he brought the coffee over, I, threw the dollar at him and said, man, stick it in your ass, and I walked out. I was just so angry because he thought that it was a good idea to take the young white, and the white guy had his head down. I mean, the white guy didn't, the white kid, he had a suit on and everything. He didn't ask the guy to put him in front of him. He didn't do anything. He was, he had his head down. He was embarrassed, just like I was. And until we get people, and I thought about it, and I went and I spoke. I waited because I knew the owner, and I went and I talked to the owner, and I said to the owner, I said, look, I don't want you to fire the guy. I said, but you need to educate the guy about how things work, man. You know what I mean? You don't need to fire him. I said, he needs to be educated. I mean, he actually did that. I said, I took it a little badly, but not extremely. I didn't think I was extreme about it, but I think those are the kinds of things that you see. People, I'm going back to the basketball example. People really think that, that they're going to be the one who's going to hit the lotto. This is what's promulgated in this country. And what's not promulgated is teamwork. It's not. They don't care about teamwork. They don't want teamwork. They want one guy pitching, one person going against the other. They want to have competition. As long as you have competition, you can pit people against the other. And that's how they do it. And until people recognize that that's not how you become a champion, you're not on a championship team with that one guy's better than the other. And we're gonna funnel everything to one guy, and everything comes down there. You don't win with that, because they can be taken out. Because there's always another bad person, like in sports. There's always another guy coming. See, that's the thing you learn about us. That's the thing I love about sports. There's always another bad man coming. Always. The bad men, they prepare. And the young bad men in training, they prepare and they get ready and they show up. There's always somebody new coming and there's going to be people around you who are better than you, clearly. But you don't see that in our culture when we're walking around trying to help each other. Everybody's worried about trying to be the best. Everybody's worried about trying to get this. And until you get to a situation where people learn about teamwork and working together, and I don't mean, socialism and any of that to the extreme, just teamwork, working together with other people. It's really hard to get people to do that. It really is. And it's kind of sad because there's so much can be gotten when people work together for a common cause. And you don't have to have an enemy. You could just, you can just have an opponent. And we're disrespectful to our opponents. Disrespectful, man. We don't want to give our opponents credit for beating us. We want to say it's somebody's fault. This person did this. I had a hole in my glove. The sun was shining. I don't know if you remember that commercial where the kid is out in the outfield and the ball comes to him and he keeps dropping the ball and he runs to the sidelines going, yeah, he's got all these excuses. Except for, except for the real excuses that he really doesn't play that well right now. It's just little league kids. And I think that's who we are. I think we're acting like little league kids and the people in charge are in the big leagues and they tell people you can do this and you can do that when other people's had, a head start on you that you cannot recover from, and then they ask you to compete against them, and it's ridiculous. And people actually buy into that. So I hope that somehow or another we could, be better than that. That's Dr. Blackie talking.
Blackie.
Sorry, Bob, I couldn't help it. And I ain't saying no more.
I want to get you a theme song, man. Dr. Blackie theme song.
Hey, yo, anybody like Trouble Man with Marvin Gaye? How about that one, Bob?
Well, because that one's taken by Trouble Man.
Hey, Bob, do you know that in the movie The Trouble Man, instead of having Marvin Gaye sing in the movie, they got Kevin Hook singing it?
Yes, I do know that.
I thought that was ridiculous. You got Marvin Gaye.
I have seen that movie. Yeah.
You got Marvin Gaye.
Yeah, well,
I just thought that was an interesting.
A lot more people heard the album than saw the movie.
You're right. I thought the movie was pretty decent. I enjoyed the movie.
It was. I liked it.
I've seen it 8 or 9 times.
I'd like to see that one remade.
Yeah,
but remade the right way. I know they tried to remake Superfly. I didn't see it, but it didn't.
I did. I saw it. I saw. Hey, Bob. I saw the remix of Superfly, and I was impressed that it wasn't as terrible as I thought it was going to be. It was actually quite entertaining.
Okay.
Except for some silliness, but it was quite an entertaining movie. I enjoyed it. But there was a little silliness in it, and people, the way they had dressed some of the characters. But other than that, it was a pretty entertaining movie, and it wasn't as good as Belly, which I thought was quite stylistic and real criminal-like, or Shotters.
Belly was directed by Ernest Dickerson, who had been Spike Lee's director of photography. So the look is going to be incredible, but he might not have been as much of a storyteller as other directors. But
I liked it because it really captured the insane, infantile, criminal behavior that one has when one's young. I thought they captured that perfectly, in my opinion. It was quite insane, quite silly, and they didn't care. Just interesting the perspective of that. So I'm hoping that that at some point, people, because of the machines in the pocket, that people will be smarter, that people will, do more research and be more thoughtful about things, and maybe understand a little bit about who's really taking advantage of the group of the regular people. Because it's not, you know what I mean? I think that has to happen. And again, I'll say it one more time. I think that people should be taught a lot more about teamwork, and that's not taught. And I think the idea of the individualism and every man for himself doesn't work. And it hasn't worked. People should just look around. That junk, that stuff is crazy. You got them in there saying, we're not even going to go for the voter. We're not even going to vote for the voters' right bill. You got not one Republican voted for the voters' right bill. Not one. Not one Republican person thought it was a good idea to have a voters' right bill. And so you can't have a two-party system when you can have one party, all of them thinking the same thing. You can have one of those groups of people thinking that the president should be investigated. Not one person. except for Mitch, what's his name? Whatever his name was, the guy from whatever his name was. And then the fact that they didn't want to hear no evidence. Oh my goodness. So when you have a republic, when you have people who say we don't need to look at the stinking evidence, I would have to say that people should be alarmed. And so all the stuff that we're seeing after this, the postal stuff, the other stuff, people should be concerned and alarmed. I mean, and when somebody thinks that calls the black lady who's a garden utensil, and I'm like, Bob, she wasn't my first choice, but I would support her from now until the cows came home. Just because she should be treated like anybody else who has the job. Whether you like it or not. I didn't like everything Obama did, as you know, sir. But I thought he should have been supported once he got in, and he did something that these guys haven't done. He acted like he was a goddamn president for everybody, and I don't know if you can say that about de Blasio. I don't know if you can say that about him. I know he's nice to his wife, nice to her, but I don't know anybody black that lives in the city that can say that we're better off now than we were 8 years ago when whoever else was in there. Bloomberg.
Well, the recent news about de Blasio I find disturbing. Number one, that one of his donors, got $100 million plus contract for doing COVID-related stuff and PPE. Somebody who'd never been in the PPE business.
Is he white, Bob?
And then now he has his wife, huh?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
My bad,
that's a rhetorical question, right?
Yeah,
I don't have to answer.
Bob. Ignore me. Go ahead. Sorry,
okay.
my apologies.
And then for him to put his wife in charge of $2 million budget and staff of 14. First of all, we did not elect his wife. And that's the same thing that Trump is doing, putting family members in, that it just smacks of, fraud and nepotism and bad politics. And so I'm not feeling de Blasio at all right now. Not feeling Cuomo that much, but Cuomo gets a half of a pass for not being a total idiot during COVID.
Well, he only killed the people in the nursing home.
So much better than the White House that people are ready to bow to the altar of Cuomo, but no.
Look, hey Bob, Cuomo only killed the people in the nursing homes as opposed to Trump. I mean, if you want to be brazen about it, as opposed to Trump's not caring about anybody. And the other point, Bob, it's interesting that they would bring up the nepotistic perspective of someone helping their wife, okay, which most of us would do, irregardless of that. We would do anything we could to help our wives, particularly financially. All of us would do that. So I'm not that mad about that part. I expect the part that you said first.
Wait, no.
Let me finish, Bob. Let me finish.
No.
Finish, Bob. Okay. Let me finish, then you can get me. The part that I do like is the part that bothers me is the part that you said first, that they gave $110 million to some guy who didn't even know what the hell he was doing. You can actually understand why he would do that for his wife. Why he's giving out these things, these $100, and I'm not deminimizing either, Bob, but the fact that he's giving out this guy this $100 million contract, that they have $3.5 billion in COVID contracts given out, none of it given to anybody but white guys. And this guy's one of them. They put him on a board of EDC, who has a program where everyone is a minority except for one group. And that part bothers me. The part about his wife, you can be ostracized. Someone can be ostracized for that, Bob, and they would have to take that. But you can at least understand why you would do something for your wife. Why he's doing something for all these other people, man, is a greater crime to me than the thing with his wife. Even though the thing with his wife, I would say is a crime too, but I would make that a misdemeanor.
If you're talking about a private enterprise, obviously, most businesses at the end of the day, even giant corporations run as family businesses. Look at CBS and Sumner Redstone
right.
and all the stuff that went on with him and his
that was a
daughter,
big
and
problem.
so and you can look at Betsy DeVos and all that DeVos family money, and her brother Eric Prince, who's running the private contractors. I understand all that, but when you are a public official, I still don't understand why Trump wasn't impeached for Jared and Ivanka.
I wouldn't disagree.
Clearly against.
I wouldn't disagree.
So
I wouldn't disagree.
and the fact is that because Trump had service, does that mean that now our mayor of New York should now say, hey, I can do that too? No, it doesn't mean that. And let's call for, since we keep it 100 here. De Blasio got in with a fake black card. He played his family, to say, I care about black people. But he cares about black people in the de Blasio household. Those are the ones he cares about. I've never seen the man. I think, let me take that back. I believe he came to Harlem this summer for one of these street corner or something or other, but I don't see him here much, I don't, I don't think he's made any effort to, let the constituents in our neighborhood or the neighborhoods of Brooklyn that he doesn't live in, the ones that haven't been fully gentrified yet, which I guess there aren't any. I'm just not feeling him.
Hey, Bob.
So listen, guys, I've got to. Yes.
No, I was gonna say, Bob, I don't want to misconstrue one. I feel the same way you do about the nepotism. I'm just saying that there's more egregious crimes going on other than the nepotistic stuff.
Well, I think you're reacting to the number. That 100 million plus to somebody who's not qualified is exactly what's wrong with this thing. Yeah. Because they tell us we're not qualified. And then they bring all kinds of folks who haven't, and again, this is an echo of what Jared has been doing on the federal level. They've been giving out a lot of contracts to people who've never done this stuff before. And, they just happened to, they went to school with them and blah, 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 hung out with them. And the fact that no one is actively challenging this stuff is that, and that's why, and I'm going to bring this back to, Stu made some comments about young people and young people who did not grow up with this stuff and are just getting their sense of the political system. When they see this lack of integrity, it makes them say, well, why should I bother vote? This thing is already rigged. And we cannot answer them. We cannot look them in the eye and tell them, no, you've got to do this when there's so much hypocrisy. You can't make that argument to them how important it is if we're not holding ourselves up to a standard of integrity that we want them to buy into. So, and that's the problem with the Democratic Party, is that they're not willing to keep their standards of integrity up. They're like, well, the Republicans are here, so we can be here. We can have a lack of integrity, but it won't be as bad as theirs. So by comparison, we're the better choice because it's only a two-party system, and that doesn't work. When you don't have integrity, it's lack of integrity. It's toxic. And it you're not going to get people to respond to it. People respond to what they know, like, and trust. Whether you're selling a product or an idea or a vote, you have to have all three of those things in place to get it, you know. And so it's all of it. It's know, like, and it's trust, you know. And so
And you know,
a
Bob,
lot of the stuff we talked about earlier.
Go ahead, Bob.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, you know, we talked earlier about the convention and some of the things they did, which is there's a certain amount of salesmanship about selling the humanity of the Democratic Party, which I think they should sell. We should emphasize the humanity because it's clear that the other party has a complete lack of empathy that leaves a lot of people left out. And so the images of the woman who nominated Biden and all that, that is, I'm going to call it political theater, but I feel it's good political theater.
Yes, it was.
But underneath that, underneath the style has to be substance, you know, and part of that substance needs to be integrity. And we need it now more than ever because we've had 4 years of absolutely not one shred of integrity from the federal government, and it's literally taken the United States from being considered the major superpower on the planet to now being the major pariah where you can't even travel to other countries on a U.S. passport. We're no longer considered the go-to nation to, you know, convene with on major issues of importance in the world.
That's a good thing.
You know, on every level of, you know, of international stature, we have fallen many positions, and it all comes back to a lack of integrity. You know, you know. Now we know that there's been a lot of false narratives about who the U.S. really is versus who they say they are. But there's usually been kind of at least a baseline of expectation from, you know, the so-called United States of America. And now the rest of the world is like, well, we don't know what the hell is coming out of them. So we're going to have to go on without them. And truth be told, all of the innovations that the U.S. economy has created, they're all available to everybody now. So there's no reason to just go in lockstep behind the U.S. anymore. We all got the internet now. Little countries in you know, little islands in the middle of nowhere have internet, you know, and if you have internet, you have access to all the knowledge. And so, you know, it used to be you had to go to America to get this. They had to send people to American universities to get our knowledge to bring back to their countries. Now it's like, I don't need that. That information's on YouTube right now.
Right. Well,
So,
you know, the other side
you know,
of I was gonna say, Bob, the other side of integrity is ingratitude, and you know, lack of integrity is also, to me, the other side of that is ingratitude. And you know, when you feel that people are demonstrating ingratitude towards you, you hate that. You don't even take that. You don't even want that from your own children and your family members. You know, no one likes that. And I think you're absolutely right, man. At some point, you know, some people will have to wake up and say, hey, wait a minute, you know, what the heck are we doing?
Or fake gratitude. I always like to talk about that, how I've always joked about how white people who want to pay you with gratitude instead of actual cash. It's like, oh, that's a great job you're doing. Thank you so much. You know, like if you're in a job and you've done this stellar work and you're thinking, oh, there's a promotion attached to this, and instead what they do, they give you recognition.
Well, I mean, I'm hoping that at some point, you know, through conversations like this, you know, people get a little bit better perspective of the kind of things that are facing us, and maybe the gold standard needed to be tarnished a little bit so that they look at some of the undercurrent stuff that's going on here in the culture that we're all a part of. You know, we may not be on the same party, we may not be in the same neighborhood, we may not be in the same race, We may not even be, think that other people have the same level of humanity that we have. But one thing that we all have in common is that we're all part of the culture. And we all, to some extent or another, most of us, cooperate in some manner or another with the culture. And I think the culture is what everybody has a vested interest in seeing be done better, that the culture is better. Things that we do around here. Because culture means, what are the things we do around here? And that's, I think, where we can all participate in making a difference in what we do around here. Now, some of this, you're right, Bob, some of the specifics and the mechanics of it, that's going to be some heart-wrenching stuff because, people don't want to give up their winningism. They don't want to give up their winning. They don't want to give up being in charge. They don't want to give up being, I'm top dog or a better dog than the other dog. But everybody participates in the culture no matter what level you are, no matter where you are in your position in the culture. So once people start understanding that, then I think they'll have a lot more respect for everybody else because we're all participating. And we all cooperate legitimately to a high degree in terms of what we do. And somehow or another, people need to recognize that how important we all are. Back to my concept of team. Everybody matters. And they need to figure that out and, and not try to make it so competitive that we don't even teach children about teamwork. We don't need to teach children about the truth because they're worried about the competitive aspect of somebody being cast in a way or another. Oh, that wasn't me. That wasn't my ancestors. I didn't do it. I'm fed up with y'all talking about that. Oh, really? I saw some poem about some right-wing guy saying that, and I was going like, that's nice because people are fed up too. There are other people who are fed up besides you guys. Everybody's fed up about something, in some way or another. You don't have an exclusivity on being fed up on the way things go. No one has that. Everybody, you know what I mean? So I think we gotta look more at the culture and how do we change the culture? How do we change the things that we do to cooperate with each other? And the things that that we don't cooperate with each other, those maybe are some of the things we need to work on. Like, how the money's given out in the culture. Maybe that, if they started at that and argued about that for a while, we might get somewhere. But that's Dr. Blackie talking.
Thank you, Dr. Blackie.
Well, my part in comments would be to go back to something that you were harping on earlier, Doug, and that is they don't promulgate this, they don't promulgate that. I think it's our responsibility to take over as much of the promulgation as we can. And, that's why we're doing this show, and that's why we're doing so many of the other media reach outs that we are all individually and collectively involved in. I think it's incumbent on us to start taking over the promulgation and reaching out to folks to start to inform and start to change minds, because we can't wait for other folks to do that. I think we gotta take that bull by the horns and take responsibility for the promulgation ourselves.
Well, good thing we've been following Bob, then we'd be in trouble.
Don't follow me.
Well, I mean, following the.
I'm not sure I know where I'm going.
No, I mean following the philosophy and the observations of Bob Ponce.
So, reminder, Wednesday morning we do our Harlem Emergency Network weekly update. We're probably going to stay on a topic that we've been talking about, which is just we're still not really sure about the safety of schools during this COVID. It seems like there are a lot of schools that kind of opened up early and are already showing COVID infections. So we continue to look at this issue. I have some concerns about, our state and local response to these things, and they're taking too many victory laps when this thing is, being up at the end of the third quarter and acting like you won the game. Yeah. Sorry, Doug. I know I know you have a patent on basketball now.
I understand. That was the secret. I'm good. That's a great example because that happens.
So
I've seen people do it in the first quarter, think the game's won over in the first quarter. Not.
Yeah, exactly. So tune in for us, Harlem Emergency Network, on Facebook and also on YouTube at 9:30 on Wednesday, and we're going to get into that, and you know, and show up back here next week because you might just learn something.
Okay.
Hey, Bob, I just want to throw one other thing in there, Bob, about the school thing. You know, Stu and I we did a lot of work in a number of schools, and I don't think we've ever been in a school building where there was more than 4 people on the whole janitorial squad, team. So
well, that's interesting because they came out with some pledge about how much they're going to keep the school clean, and they're going to do it every night, and blah 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 blah. But again, pledges. They pledged 10,000 air conditioners to NYCHA, and they installed like 3. You know, there's a lot of pledging be going on, and you know, to me, pledge is just furniture wax. Show me what you're actually going to do. So that's my story.
I'm just like to remind folks to tune in to
I gotta go.
Technology Wednesdays at 5. This week we're going to be talking with an educator and a professor who's done some research on bias in remote learning evaluation. Apparently there's a lot of systemic bias built into the evaluation of remote learning, and there are a bunch of companies that are now putting themselves forward as evaluators of remote learning results, and there's so much systemic bias built into that. We're going to have a conversation on that. Community and Technology, Wednesdays, 5 to 6, WHCR 90.3, and on YouTube and on our safeandsmart.org website. So I think Dr. Blackie's tuned out, so I think we're signing off, Bob.
Okay, all right, stay safe, Sue.
Okay, thanks.
See you next week.
Tune in next week. As Bob just said, you just might learn something. Thank you.